Welcome back to the Center on Buffalo podcast. This week we are joined by Maddy Glab. She's someone I work with closely a lot during the season and also during the offseason. She serves as one of the faces of the Bills. She reports on games, practices, personnel, and runs a bunch of the events for team purposes. She was there emceeing the new stadium ribbon cutting. She is an integral part of the Bills organization. She's also a TV sideline reporter for the Bills preseason games on CBS. So you see her all over, and now we have her on the podcast. This is going to be a fun one, talking about the offseason, her career journey, and a bunch more. So make sure you're subscribed to the podcast to get this pushed to you each and every week. Last week we had on Will Greenberg, the Bills strength and conditioning coach. If you haven't checked that one out, go check that out. We appreciate all the support, as always, from all of our loyal listeners. Go Bills, and enjoy the podcast.
Hit us up on all social media at The Buffalo Pod.
Maddy, welcome on the podcast.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's an honor to have you. You came requested. People were requesting a female guest. Someone mentioned you by name last week. It hit my brain. I said, we got to get Maddy on the podcast. I don't know why she hasn't been on already. So thank you for joining us. And I realize that most of the listeners are already going to know who you are, but to me, I want to know about kind of your journey in media work and what led you to this role that you now have with the Bills.
Yeah, well, I'm super thankful to be in this role with the Bills. This is truly a dream job. I think as I started working in journalism and working in the sports world, I fell in love with football very quickly and hoped that one day I would end up with an NFL team. So it's crazy to think back and now think about the fact that this is going to be my 7th year with the Bills. Time flies. I started in 2019, the year before COVID, and it all just seems a blur. But going back to how I kind of got into it, I was born and raised in Chicago. So growing up, my dad was a huge sports fan. I was the firstborn. And so I think a part of my dad thought this might be our only chance. We might not get a boy, so we're just going to make this girl love sports. So I grew up loving sports, cheering for all Chicago teams, playing in a bunch of different sports. So it was a huge part of my life. When I went to school and started to figure out, okay, what do I want to do when I grow up? I didn't have any really big passions in terms of like school subjects and whatnot. So I just thought, let me work in sports. How can I do this? Played softball most of my life. Unfortunately, didn't play in college due to an injury, but wanted to continue on in the sports realm. So I went to the University of Missouri for journalism. And when I got there, I quickly got started working for an NBC affiliate there and got my feet wet, was able to cover a bunch of Mizzou sports right away. I was in the Big 12 for my first 2 years, and then Mizzou made the transition to the SEC. So that was so fun to cover, being a part of some huge games, basketball-wise, when we were in the Big 12, and then flipped quickly to a football school when we were in the SEC. So that's where I started working in journalism and realized I can't get enough of this. I want more of this in my life. And then once I graduated, I got a job at Stanford University. A lot of my teachers said, go work for a team or a university. Local TV is not what it used to be. So I emailed a bunch of schools. Stanford got back to me and they had an opening. So I worked there for a year. It was Christian McCaffrey's rookie season. So Nice. It was amazing to see Christian McCaffrey as just a young football player growing into what he is now today. Quickly after that, I kind of realized I need to get back into a conference where people have so much love and passion for the game. So I wanted to get back into the SEC, worked for the University of Tennessee for 4 years, doing a bunch of on-air work for them, getting to cover their men's and women's basketball teams, and doing a lot with the football team, which has so much history, an incredible fan base. So making that transition into specifically working for the Bills felt like going from a big-time SEC school to another big-time SEC school in terms of how our fan base cheers on the Buffalo Bills. So that's kind of my path into it. I knew I always wanted to do it. I wasn't one of those kids who, flipped and changed to a bunch of majors, because once I got in this one, I was blessed to know I really want to do this. So that's my path.
Oh, I love it. And that's a great path. And I love the journey and hearing about people's journey to where they are now. And most people just think, oh, Maddie probably applied for a job with the Bills out of college, but you really cut your teeth. And a lot of times that's a blessing because I'm not saying this. I'm sure you were perfect at the start, but at times, if you hop right into that big role, we've seen it in some broadcast positions as former players are thrust into those roles, and maybe it doesn't work out. Well, if they would have cut their teeth on maybe some smaller broadcasts, they would have been able to be able to shine in the spotlight like you have when you do get that job with an NFL team. And so I often get people reaching out to me like, hey, I want to do what you do, or I want to be in Chris Brown's seat in the play-by-play booth one day. So I'm sure you get hit up often, and people ask you for advice like, hey, I want to do what you do one day. What would be your advice to them? Let's say, coming out of high school, what's your advice to them?
I get so many people who contact me and want to do this job, which is incredible. It's such a fun job, and I know why a bunch of people would want to do it. But there's a lot of hard work, like you said, that goes into making your way into a role like this one. So I tell people to learn everything. When I was in school at Mizzou, my teachers taught me learn how to be a one-man band or a one-woman band. So learn how to do everything. Learn how to shoot, learn how to edit, learn how to write, because once you get out of college, you're going to make yourself more marketable. So when I was in school at the University of Missouri, I learned how to shoot and edit video. I learned how to write my own scripts, write articles and web stories, and also learned how to be on camera. I obviously wanted to end up on camera, but I knew I had to cut my teeth by doing all of it before I could kind of specialize in being on air. My first job at Stanford University was actually a producer role. It's really hard for people who major in sports broadcasting to just jump into an on-air role, especially with a school as big as Stanford. So they were kind of just looking for a producer. I thought, might as well jump in it and hope that I can work my way up to the top somehow. And so thankfully, I had experience shooting and editing video, which I did a lot of at Stanford University. I then continued to do it at the University of Tennessee and started to get more reps on air. And now, being with the Bills, I do a lot of on air work and a lot of writing. So I'm happy that I continue to try to keep up with my writing throughout post college years. I wrote for a sports blog for free for many years just to keep that skill, because you never know when you're going to need it. So that's what I tell everybody, is learn how to do everything, and you can specialize in things as you move your way up the ladder. And then for women get some bad raps in this industry, just because people may think, we don't know the sport because we didn't play football. And I understand that. But if you do your homework and you stay committed to learning, you stay committed to learning all you can about the players, about the coaches, you come across on air as if you know what you're talking about. So I really specifically this is for men and women, to make sure you're doing your homework and make sure when the camera light goes on, you know exactly what you're talking about.
That's really good stuff. Learn everything. I love that. And then to your point about women, okay, yes, because I played an NFL game, I might be able to articulate something that happened during a play better
Totally.
than you, but you do so much research throughout the week. Half the stats that I give out on game days are from an email that's sent from you. And so when you're making points, it's going to be, okay, here's what the advanced analytics say, or these are the trends, or this is what we saw. It might not be, okay, he should have done this because I could have been in that situation. And I think it's lame when people maybe attack a female and saying, okay, she doesn't know the game because she's never played. Okay, well, some of the best coaches in the NFL never stepped on an NFL field either. So it can be learned. It very well can. And if you put in the work on the back end, like I'll say Amina Kimes,
Mm-hmm.
she can go toe to toe with anybody. She shows it every week on NFL Live and all the other appearances that she does. And it always drives me nuts when people give her grief about not being a former player. I'm like, Mina's smart. She knows more about the NFL in general than I do, and she can have a really good take. And to your point on writing, this isn't going to sell me out. But Maddie was my ghostwriter when I used to do articles for the Bills. I don't do articles anymore, or else I wouldn't have brought that up on this podcast. But Maddie was my writer. So for all the compliments that everyone gave me over the years when I was writing for BuffaloBills.com, that was actually Maddie. Now we would do a sit down conversation to craft the article, but she would articulate it for me. So I appreciate you making me look good in all those instances. Absolutely.
I enjoyed doing those. It was fun to get on the phone with you right after the game and be like, okay, what did you think about this? Do you want to talk about this? Let's break down this facet of the game. Because I learned from you. I learned from everybody. And I learn a lot from current and former players. So it was one of my favorite things to do when we got to do it.
Oh, good. Yeah. And, I'm generally I tend to be, I'll say rational. Like, okay, the Bills had a terrible performance. I'm never thinking the house is burning down at one Bills drive. Like that's not where I'm at. The Bills are really good. They've been really good ever since you've been covering the team and since I have as well. And so, and you can tell that, even if they have a slow start to a season, like I have a lot of confidence that this group's going to be A-okay. So, and you always articulated that for me through the article. So I appreciate that. Let's take a moment to hear from one of our sponsors, and that's Dano's Seasoning. Right now, they have a special. Listeners of the podcast can use the promo code Buffalo, and you get a 13-pack of the premium seasoning for just $65. That's going to last you a long time. You get everything from the original to the spicy, to the crunchy, to the primo, to the seasonings, and much more. We got most of the lineup right over here. Yum, yum, get you some. Go check them out at danoseasoning.com or retail store near you. You will not regret it. All right, so of all of your responsibilities, and you have to choose one, what do you enjoy most doing throughout your work with the Bills?
I think it's building the relationships. A lot of this isn't, it doesn't come across on camera and, okay, let's watch Maddie build a relationship with a player or coach, but it's a huge part of my day to day. And it's why some of the interviews that I do look comfortable. It's why I'm able to get some of the information that I do. It's why I feel comfortable being around the team and the coaching staff every single day, is because now being here for 7 seasons, I've spent time and a lot of effort to build relationships with people inside of the building, and not just football, it's business side too. But you walk through these doors, and Eric, I know you know it too, but it's full of incredible people, and you can't help but want to know how people got in their seats, how people came to be the players that they are today. And you want to build those relationships so that you can help tell those stories, because so many of our players have such inspiring stories, whether it be how they got drafted by Buffalo or how they earned a starting job. And that's my favorite part, is telling those stories. So that's my favorite thing to do in this job, is build relationships that will hopefully last a lifetime. Working in sports for as long as I've worked in sports, it's crazy how paths cross. One example is I was working for the University of Tennessee when Joshua Palmer was a wide receiver there. I also helped out with it was a group called the Vol Leaders, and it was made up of different athletes every single year at the University of Tennessee, but it was rising leaders on each team, and we took a service trip to a different country together every year. So I actually went to Africa with Joshua Palmer when I worked there, so I knew him well. Then we signed Palmer in free agency. He walks through the doors, and I'm like, hey, what's up? So it's great to build relationships that then cross over. You never know who's going to become a Buffalo Bill. So it's been fun to see people walk through these doors that I've known from different stops.
All right. So you've been covering Josh Palmer for a long time. You're probably more familiar with him than most listening to this podcast. What can Bills fans expect on the field from Joshua Palmer?
They can expect exciting things. He was an exciting piece to Tennessee's offense when he was in it. I understand different quarterback, different offense, different coach, and all that stuff. But what stood out about him in college was his ability to beat man coverage. He was able to make big plays happen because of his ability to do that and stretch the field. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing him add that wrinkle to this offense. We heard from offensive coordinator Joe Brady yesterday. He was asked about Palmer, and Brady said, I've been following Palmer for years now. I'm really excited to see what he's going to bring to this offense because I've been a fan of his play. And Josh Allen even shouted that out too, like his ability to beat man coverage. So I think that's kind of what separates him from other wide receivers in the NFL is his capability of doing that. And I think adding that into the mix this year just helps define roles of other wide receivers. I know Joe Brady wants everybody to learn every single wide receiver role, and Palmer will be able to do that here too. So it'll be exciting to see how his role expands as a wide receiver, because I know the Bills will use him differently than the Chargers did in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point about Joe Brady and Josh Allen, the quarterback and the offensive coordinator likely watching the most film of anybody, especially on that side of the ball. With him playing for another AFC team, they're seeing him on tape each and every week. Most weeks, they're going to see, a lot, the guys from the Chargers. And so they've definitely seen him, did their homework. And I brought it up with Brandon Bean when he was on the podcast. Like, obviously, you really wanted him, and you could tell the guys that Bean they did their homework on, because how quickly they signed him when free agency started. So great sign for him. All right, so recently you were there for the stadium ribbon cutting. You emceed that. You did the Bills draft party. So the Bills are having you MC most of their big events nowadays. Were you asked to cover the royal wedding of Buffalo between Josh and Haley?
I didn't get that assignment. Maybe I'll have to check my email to see if I missed it, see if it went into spam. But I'm sure you got this question too, as did a lot of people who have connections to, One Bills Drive. It's like, oh, you didn't get the invite to the wedding. I'm like, guys, come on. No.
I know. I'm with you. I just didn't know if they needed you to cover it. You could do like a Bills embedded from Josh's wedding. That would be his absolute nightmare to have that kind of coverage
Be
going
like,
on.
guys, I don't want to see you here. Give me some space.
I know it. All right, we're going to give a quick shout out to Waterboy, my favorite electrolytes out there right now. We'll make sure you get some sent to you, Maddie.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone's been loving them. We've been sending them to. If you use code EWOOD, you get 20% off, and the link to that is in the show notes. All right. So the rookies have been there for a few weeks now. What are your early impressions of this rookie class?
This rookie class already has gelled together so well. You're around them and you kind of wonder, and a lot of them did have connections prior to coming to this building, just because you meet guys through the combine, you're training possibly at the same place. So there are existing connections, but then they get inside the facility and you see them around each other and they seem like they're so comfortable already. And it seems like they've known each other for longer. So that's great to see off the bat, is these new players just feeling comfortable in the building and then feeling comfortable around veterans. Eric, you know what it's like to be a rookie in this league and to feel like I'm not a loner, but to feel like, how do I get into the mix? How do I feel like I belong? What are the right things to do? What are the wrong things to do? I think this group of veterans does a really good job of making people feel comfortable. Tre'Davious White talked to media yesterday. He was asked about how do you balance like fighting it out for a starting job, but also helping Maxwell Harrison learn as much as he can. And Trey had just the perfect answer of like, hey, competition brings the best out of everybody, but I know what it's like to be a first round cornerback here in Buffalo and trying to get my feet under me and understand what's going on. So I'm going to answer any question that he has. So it's great to know that we have those types of players here at One Bills Drive. But in terms of what we've seen on the field, one thing that stuck out to me, and again, it's OTAs. There's no pads on yet. We won't see that until training camp. But Harrison's speed shows us up, just his ability to catch up, his ability to play with his speed, I think is something that is fascinating, that the Buffalo Bills have not had since Sean McDermott and Brandon Bean have walked through these doors on defense. We haven't had 4.28 speed yet. So I'm really excited to see how that looks on the field once we get started for training camp. And then you look at the defensive linemen, like Landon Jackson, TJ Sanders, and Deion Walker are all huge beasts. I know TJ Sanders isn't as tall as Jackson or Walker, but the speed that we added with those players and the length and the size with those three, I think is going to bring a new element to the defensive line. So I'm really excited to see how it all comes together, because Sanders had a rep the other day where he came off the line of scrimmage, blazing fast to blow up a play, knock the ball down, and he looked like he turned into a basketball player. He's got a basketball background. A lot of these rookies do, which I think helps them in their NFL careers.
Yeah, I'm excited about this rookie class. And I'll say that. I always say it takes 2 to 3 years to judge a rookie class. Like, don't come at me next year and say, oh, these guys didn't contribute or Trey White started, Harrison's bust. Absolutely not. Give me 2 to 3 years, but I really like this rookie class. I like how Bean took some swings, kind of higher ceilings, maybe lower floor type guys, but higher ceilings. You got extreme length, quickness, whatever it may be. He kind of went to the extremes. And we'll see how it pans out, but I like that they went there. And when you got a lot of guys returning, you can go take those swings. You don't have to necessarily have a plug and play starter that his ceiling might not be as high, but we know we got a guy that can plug in there. I like how they took some swings in this draft. All right, so you've been able to go out to OTAs for a couple of the practices. Has there been a big time moment, or what's impressed you the most, just quickly about what you've been able to see out there?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's been any big time moments that stand out amongst the rest. There hasn't been like one play, but like I said, Sanders had that awesome rep where he blew up the offensive line, batted a ball down. That was impressive. Landon Jackson looks good coming off the edge. And then Keon Coleman has had his fair share of nice catches. Maxwell Harrison has had some nice reps. So you kind of make a list of like, okay, I want to watch these position groups. I want to watch these players and see how they're growing. Dalton Kincaid also had a great catch yesterday. So it's been fun to keep tabs on these guys in terms of how are you growing from one year to another. Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid look bigger. That was something that Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane brought up after the season was over, of just adding muscle mass to certain players, and Kincaid and Coleman were on that list. And it's great to see, hey, this is what you need to do. Here they are for OTAs, and they look like they did exactly that.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. Early on, there was a picture of Kincaid that blew up, and everyone was saying how skinny he looked. I'm like, I don't think he looks that skinny. He's not a 265-pound tight end. I think he looks pretty lean, and looks like he's about 245 or whatever that he was listed at. He's receiving tight end. He's a capable blocker. We want him to be a threat in the receiving game. And so, I liked yesterday and throughout OTAs how Sean McDermott has praised those guys, because especially Dalton Kincaid's gotten a lot of heat this offseason, but excited to see him making some noise out there as well. All right. Does the Bosa injury scare you at this point?
We talk about so many different things in the area that I work in, and you know the desk setup. There's like 6 desks of a bunch of people who work in our content department, and we are constantly talking about Bills news, sports news, the NFL, the NBA, the news of the day. And so, of course, this Bosa injury comes out when Sean McDermott talks about it during press conference. And our group of coworkers that I'm around, we always like to say, all right, we got a podcast segment, fake podcast segment, and we like pretend that we're like podcasting together, because we talk about sports all the time. It's the best thing ever. So just discussing it with everybody, it's like, okay, Joey Bosa was brought to this team to be a difference maker on the defensive line. Yes. Am I worried about it right now when the season is not happening? No, I am not. Sean McDermott said they expect Bosa to be back for training camp. If that's what happens, I am totally fine with that. He's still in the building. He's getting experience just being around these guys, watching practice tape. He is a seasoned veteran who has lots of sacks, who's played in lots of games, who can understand a playbook. It doesn't bother me right now.
Yeah, if it's a calf strain or whatever they announced it as, heck, I mean, a guy with his amount of experience, I don't know how many reps he's even getting during OTAs, just to be completely honest. He's going to be doing the strength and conditioning, but a guy with that kind of experience, okay, you've seen what he can do on the field over the years. Pass rushers don't necessarily have to be like an offensive lineman where you're all working in cohesion. Yes, at times they run, games up front and whatnot, but most of what they do is rush the edge. And that's something he's done throughout his career. You don't necessarily have to work with anybody else on the defensive line or anyone else on the defense. That's your job. Contain the end, contain the line of scrimmage off the edge, and then also go get after the passer. So I'm with you, but I see it, and I'm blasted on X and Instagram, people talking about it. But yeah, I'm not sky is falling at this point because of that injury. All right. I want to ask you about this. So you worked very closely with Kim Pegula, and you guys hosted a weekly podcast together. And I know you guys were extremely close. Just as a whole, because I'm not working at One Bills Live, I'm not there on a day-to-day basis, but she was there so much. How much is she missed in the building on a regular basis?
I think she's missed so much. And I think you would talk to anybody in the building, and I think a lot of people would say that they still think about her constantly. She'll come in my mind almost weekly, just whether it's passing through a hallway in the building or whether it's being at a certain place in the facility. There's so many memories of her inside of the building, and she's still inside the building. Sometimes we'll walk upstairs into the cafeteria, and Kim is there eating lunch. So it's great to still see her and see how she's doing, and see the strides that she continues to make. But we do miss her presence because it was there every single day. So it's something that I don't think, everybody feels thankful that they got to have those moments with her when she was there every single day, and just, made such a difference on this in this facility and with all of my coworkers. She was a big culture setter, and I think her presence continues to be that. Just because she's not in the building every single day doesn't mean that what she put in place is gone at all. And I think that just speaks to how wonderful she is as a boss and as a human.
I did not prep you for that question, and that was extremely well said. Well done, Maddie. That was excellent. And I miss our game day interactions and the times I'd be at the facility. I always miss seeing her. And hopefully that there's a successful road to recovery still coming along. All right, so we'll get to the rapid fire questions now. They're presented by Dano Seasoning. First off, have you tried Dano Seasoning before?
I have not,
All right,
but I'm
well,
interested.
you are in luck. I was their first investor, a product that I stand behind, all
Cool.
natural, no sugar, great products. We'll get you a bunch sent
Thank you.
to your house. All right, second rapid fire question. Who's the funniest Bills player, past or present, that you've ever sat down with for an interview?
Oh gosh, that I've ever sat down with for an interview. Um, I mean, there's two guys in the building currently who just are just laughter all the time. It's Trey White and Deion Dawkins. I mean,
Yeah.
when Trey signed back here, it was very quickly. You could hear him throughout the facility in the hallways, going up to the cafeteria, like 50 to 100 feet away. It's like, oh, Trey's back in the building. And there's just a feeling of, I feel like I'm at home. I feel like this makes sense when you have certain players like him back in the building. It just all feels right. So I think those two are at the top of my list. Somebody who I haven't interviewed, but all the players say he's hilarious, is one of our wide receivers, KJ Hamler. He's always cracking jokes. He was laughing at practice yesterday as he was catching passes. He seems like he's always in a good mood.
Yeah, KJ has been named by others on the podcast for how hilarious he is. And he was the one at the hockey game with Deion Dawkins, correct? When they mic'd them up for the hockey game?
Yes, I believe it was him.
Okay, yes, he's extremely funny. I remember when Trey was a rookie, he didn't talk that much as a rookie. On the other hand, did talk a lot as a rookie, as you could probably expect.
I'm not surprised.
Absolutely. All right. Has there ever been someone that you were intimidated by that you had to interview within the Bills organization? And I understand this isn't like a physical intimidation, just,
Right.
okay, I'm a little nervous about this one. I'm not sure how this one's going to go, or they might not be in a great mood. Has there been one of those?
I think maybe the first time I interviewed Terry Pegula, that was early on when I was working for the team, probably my first year. I mean, he is the owner of the Buffalo Bills. You don't want to mess anything up. You want to be as prepared as possible, as polite as possible, and do your job right because he's the one who's signing the check. So I think probably interviewing Terry for the first time.
Yep. And he's often a man of few words, but if you ask him the right questions and you talk to him about stuff he's passionate about, he'll light up. And so it does put pressure on you when you're having those conversations with Terry. All right, last one. What's your favorite wing spot in Buffalo?
Ooh, that's tough because it depends on how I'm feeling. Bar-bill you can't miss, but wing nuts is also great if you're in the mood for saucier wings. That's where I like to go. But I think bar-bill is number one. They never make a bad wing.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Are you blue cheese or ranch?
I started off ranch because I'm not from Buffalo. I'm from Chicago. And when you come here and you learn we do blue cheese, it's just not the same elsewhere. So I had to learn about the blue cheese here, but now I love the blue cheese. So I'm a blue cheese gal now. Thanks, Buffalo.
7 years later, you're one of us.
Yeah.
You're one of us. Maddie, thank you for the time. You're always a joy to spend time around, to talk to. You crush it on the podcast, which is the least surprising thing ever. Hope you have an awesome summer prepping for a very long season, and hopefully it ends with a Lombardi trophy. So thanks for coming on the podcast.
I'm so happy to be on. Eric, have a good off season, and I'll see you back here soon enough.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you.